Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow, you're only a day away. You asked for the Emberton, the Marshall Emberton. Remember, Marshall in logo name only because it's made by Sound Industries on license from Marshall, and obviously the agreement is make them look like our amplifiers. They'll think they're made by Marshall. We've had a lot to do with it, and people buy it because it does look nice. It is cute. If you already know Marshall amplifiers, you'll get a kick out of the fact that it looks like one of their amplifiers. But it's made by Sound Industries. But yeah, made in China, of course. And the JBL Flip 6 on paper could be a match because about 120 quid should be the same in dollars. But I have to say 30 watts mono woofer tweeter, 20 watts woofer passive radiator, woofer passive radiator. So clue there, that's a 360-degree speaker. That's going to sound reasonably the same however you listen to it. In other words, it's going to have great dispersion. That's not so much going to have great dispersion. It's going to have some dispersion because of the tweeter, especially if you're listening the tweeter side. But listen to them from behind. And hi-fi enthusiasts will start talking about, yeah, we love our sound power and all that stuff. Well, if you're into that, I don't really test Bluetooth speakers in that way. I don't think it's appropriate. However, I have to point out one major difference. I will be recording these on Axis. But in the real world, if you're listening from other rooms, you're walking around all the time, the Marshall is going to be more consistent because it does sound basically the same both sides. What is the configuration now? I'll tell you. The front driver is the left side. The rear driver is the right side. So you're getting some sort of, I wouldn't listen to it that way because you maybe think, oh, left, right, I can listen to it. It's a reasonable enough sound, but the best sound is front and back. There isn't really that great stereo because it's left and right, but you're getting a pseudo surround. It's not, it's going to be less defined, less focused than you will get from the Flip 6 because it's more of a spacey, airy, echoey, reverb type sound. It works quite well, but not as good as it does on Stockwell 2. That's going to be a major difference. You need to remember, I'm doing these on Axis, but in the real world, if you're going to be listening all around, automatically that's going to be a better option. So we said 20 watts, 30 watts. 30 watts for the Flip 6 and 20 watts for the Marshall Emberton. Both are about 120 quid. Let's get straight in. Let's hear how they're going to compare. Around 50% volume. No one else can do it like I do. We know the Flip 6, or you should do if you've been watching all my videos since 5 years ago. But if you haven't, this sounds different at every volume scale. It sounds best at moderate to low volumes where it has a very heavy mid bass and where it has most of the bass. As you got the volume scale, it rapidly reduces the relative bass compared to the mids and the highs as you go up. So it excels at around 50%. In this particular comparison, we have more upper bass. We have a brighter sound on the Marshall Emberton compared to the Flip 6. Makes that sound quite lean against the Flip 6. We have a much fuller sound. We have a deeper bass on the Flip 6. I've already mentioned there's a lack of mids, which we've helped a little bit by using our EQ, but there is a lack of mids, lack of pop for some of the vocals on the Flip 6, but you wouldn't know that listening to the Emberton, where there's clearly even more of a mid suck out at these volumes. However, I mentioned it does clever things with the front back drivers, the way the drivers are set up. There's obviously a bit of reverb going on. It sounds more spacey, more airy, more echoey. And that may be a nicer listen just because of that for you, rather than the mono, very defined but hard-edged, tight-sounding Flip 6. If you want a more precise sound, you will prefer the Flip 6. But if it's just a bit of fun, you may like the pseudo surround presentation, which is basically reverb on, well, not exactly. There's going to be some differences between left and right, but it's basically, it sounds like a bit of reverb, a bit of echoey stuff. It's like a more spacey, airy kind of sound, but you're going to lack tightness and definition because of that on the Marshall Emberton. For me, it's a win for the JBL Flip 6 would be the speaker I'd prefer to listen to. As I said in the beginning, if I'm not moving it around in terms of dispersion, because you've got front-back drivers, it's going to be the Marshall Emberton all the way to the end. Then it would be a big win. Remember, as a 360-degree speaker, that's going to win out every day of the week. That's 7 days to you. But on axis listening, for me, it's the JBL Flip 6. So, 75% volume test.
Keep me close to you. This can't be over soon. I know we're falling apart, my darling, but I'll be waiting for you. Keep me close to you. This can't be over soon. I know we're falling apart, my darling, but I'll be waiting for you. The moon shines bright as the stars align in the shape of you. Everything beautiful makes me feel so blue. At times I lose my mind, but I know the one thing's right, that I love you, dear. Oh, keep me close to you. This can't be over soon. I know we're falling apart, my darling, but I'll be waiting for you. Keep me close to you. This can't be over soon. I know we're falling apart, my darling, but I'll be waiting for you.
Was a bit of a surprise to me now, around 75%. The thing here for the Flip 6 is, as I keep mentioning, as you go up the volume scale, there's a rapid drop-off in relative bass. The bass does increase, but not as much as the mids, and the highs increase. And by the time you hit 80%, you will get no more bass at all. It becomes very screechy. We've tamed it a little bit with our EQ by bringing the highs down, but the differences from 50% are no longer quite there at 75%, where the JBL Flip 6 becomes very lean sound. It sounds quite tight and defined, but it's very lean. There isn't much meat on the bones. And so the actual sound signatures are now evening out. The Flip 6 still has the deeper bass, but overall bass is quite similar because of the amount of upper bass on the Emberton. Indeed, even mid bass now are basically the same on these two speakers. It's going to come down to taste. Now, I've said the Flip 6 becomes lean. It becomes lean compared to the warm sound it had at 50%. These are both lean sounding speakers. And in fact, the Emberton is even leaner sounding, but it presents in a different way. It's got the pseudo surround thing going on. There is more spacey, airy thing. You may like that. You're either going to like the way the soundstage is presented, not tight, but airy. Maybe you can pick out more separation because there is some semblance of stereo, which you can't do on the pure mono speaker that is the Flip 6, but it will be tighter, more defined, but you're going to lose some of that separation. So some of the fun things, it's not a soundstage on the Emberton, but you will just get a little bit or more of a wider sound, a little bit more going on. It's fun rather than accurate, but you may prefer that over the Flip 6. And I would say still mids light, where you got mids on the Flip 6. So going to depend, both of them I think are kind of give you the same pleasure depending on your actual taste. Whereas for me, a clear winner, Flip 6, lower volumes. These volumes, I'm saying it's a draw. No, there are major differences in how the sound is presented. What about the headroom? Well, 30 watts, 20 watts, is this going to be fair? I don't know, let's find out. Let's go to 100% volume.
Staring at the sun in my eyes. I've been keeping on the run every night. But you're too far away to see the signs. So I'm staring at the sun till I'm dry. 'Cause I need to learn to forget everything that drags me down. I need to forget everything inside me now. Full speed ahead, far from the end. So I'm full speed ahead. Full speed ahead.
So not that much in it in terms of actual loudness. In fact, it's the Marshall Emberton that edges it slightly. That's in terms of LUFS. In peaks, it is the advantage to the Flip 6, but the Emberton does not hold on to bass. 3 decibels down in overall bass on the Flip 6, 7 decibels down at 60 hertz, but it does keep hold of its highs, and it's 2 decibels up on the Flip 6, which is already a bit screechy. So without the bass and with extra highs, you can see how strong those highs are on the Emberton, whereas we would be looking for a linear slope. We've actually got 2 big peaks, and that makes for a harsh listen, albeit technically the loudest.
Well, technically, yeah, Marshall Emberton goes the loudest because it's quite screechy. 2 decibels more in the highs, already screechy sound on the Flip 6, but now, actually, that makes that sound almost quite balanced. Oh, listen to me, Superman. Let's put him back. So very screechy. There's not much to like at all. It's a clear winner for the Flip 6. It's 7 decibels up. That's huge. 7 decibels. Remember, 3 decibels is like doubling the power. 7 decibels up in terms of we're not talking sub bass. We're talking about 60 hertz. Look, that's not a great listen anyway. We've already discovered that at maximum volume. But compared to the Emberton, it's almost paradise. That's not a great listen. And you're not going to listen to those volumes. So you're not going to listen to this maximum volume where it's really, really screechy and thin and brittle. But lower volumes, if you want a 360-degree sound, if you don't need it to go very loud, and you like the way, even on Axis, it presents some sort of a sound stage, even if it's not very tight or defined, you may prefer the Emberton. You may just like it because it looks nice, it's rubberized, it's quite cute, although it's a bit of a brick. I do, I got hands up. I do like the fact that it looks like one of the amps. Just know, it's got nothing to do with Marshall. It's made on license, they just used the name. But that's a clear winner again, Flip 6, very knockable form factor. So there's something to say good about both of these speakers. And no, it's about taste and the volumes you are listening at. Is there anything else to say in terms of spec? Of course, we already know they're made in China, blah, 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 blah. Almost always, apart from the mini rigs, made in China. 17 watt-hour battery, but a decent battery. So you're going to get better battery life, especially as there isn't deep bass, because depending on the specs you go by, it's either 24 watts or 28 watt-hour battery. So it's a better battery. They're both Bluetooth 5, both SBC. You cannot pair 2 of those, but you can pair 2 of them in stereo, and you can do like 100 or more speakers if you connect them all up. Both have USB-C charging. Neither of them have an auxiliary input. Neither of them can be used as a power bank. Neither of them can be used as a phone speaker. 700 grams, it's a bigger speaker for the Marshall Emberton versus 550 grams for the Flip 6. Neither of them float, but both are IPX7 rated. That's also IPX67 because it's dust proof. The Emberton is reasonable for lip sync, 80 milliseconds, just at the cutoff point. So that is usable for streaming, say, from YouTube and not getting obvious lip sync issues. 116 milliseconds, not quite as good and as obvious, but it has a tweeter. A lot of you just get excited because it says tweeter. No app for the Marshall Emberton, so no EQ. We got an app and we got EQ. Just know if you want to do stereo, you've got to go into the app. That's not great. Ever since we upgraded the JBL Chance 3, we've had to use the app for stereo. If only they would listen to me. We loved it when the JBL Chance 3 didn't need the app. You just connected them and they automatically wirelessly connected when a pair of them were started up and you'd already configured them as stereo. So there you go. The Marshall, there's something to say about both these speakers. You're going to have to watch all the video for a change to understand all of the differences. But I thank you for watching and I'll see you again maybe in another video.
I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no project wife, got my logic right, cause I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry, ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life. I ain't about that. I ain't about that life.